Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Kelly, and we are moving on to the southern region, and we have 8 states in this region. Okay, so we're gonna hop in the RV, gas up the RV, get some snacks, and we're gonna take a little trip through the southern region of the United States. So the states in this region are Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Louisiana, Kentucky, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Tennessee. And here they are on the map. And you can see Texas is kind of obvious. It's big. It has a shape that we can recognize. Oklahoma kind of has this. It looks like almost like a panhandle. Like this is like a pot or a pan, and you'd hold on to that part. Somebody suggested, and I thought this was great, that Louisiana almost looks like a shoe or a boot. So however you remember the states, like their shapes, right? Whatever helps you to kind of know what the shape of the state is. Now, here is the list of the states, their capital cities, and their abbreviations. And remember, we said that abbreviations can be like the first 2 letters, the first and the last letter. If it's 2 words, then the first letter of the first word and the first letter of the second word. We have a few rule breakers here. So let's see which ones are rule breakers. So Texas, the capital is Austin. The abbreviation is TX. That's a rule breaker because look, it's not the first 2 letters and it's not the first and the last letter. So we have one rule breaker right there. Oklahoma, the capital is Oklahoma City. The abbreviation is OK. Think Oklahoma is OK. Alabama, Montgomery is the capital, and the abbreviation is AL, first 2 letters. Louisiana, the capital is Baton Rouge. The abbreviation is LA, the first and last letter. Kentucky, the capital is Frankfort. The abbreviation is KY, which is the first and last letter. Mississippi, the capital is Jackson. Now here's a rule breaker. The abbreviation is MS, the first and the third letter, MS. Arkansas, the capital is Little Rock, and the abbreviation is AR. Tennessee, the capital is Nashville, and the abbreviation is TN, and that's our other rule breaker, T and N. It's the first and the third letter. Okay, our first stop is going to be Texas. And you can see Texas here on the map, and it's pretty, it stands out. You always recognize Texas because of the way that it's shaped. So the capital is Austin. Other major cities in Texas include Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Fort Worth. And the nickname of Texas is the Lone Star State. Here is the Texas flag with 1 star. So think about the lone means 1, the Lone Star State. There's just a fun picture postcard from Texas that we can send home while we're on our trip. So we have some tourist attractions. We have the Alamo, which was the site of a famous battle between a group of soldiers from Texas and a group of soldiers from Mexico. The San Antonio River Walk. NASA Space Center in Houston. If you've ever heard, Houston, we have a problem. There's Houston. There it is. And this is Guadalupe Mountains National Park. And this, if you look in the background there, when we talked about landforms, we talked about mesas. And this would be a mesa. It's like a mountain with the top cut off of it. And the Rio Grande River forms the border between Texas and Mexico. And it empties out there, as you can see, into the Gulf of Mexico. Moving on to Oklahoma, and there it is on the map. Capital is Oklahoma City. Major cities include Tulsa, Norman, and Broken Arrow. Oklahoma is the Sooner State, and I read where that came from. It had something to do with men who were signing up to fight in a war, and men from Oklahoma volunteered sooner than anybody else, so that's their nickname, the Sooner State. There is Oklahoma's state flag. There's a fun little postcard there. Their state bird is the scissor-tailed flycatcher. And the state flower is the Oklahoma rose. And then it says many settlers arrived in their covered wagons to Oklahoma during the 1889 land rush, where government was giving out land for free. And that's like a covered wagon that they would have traveled in. Some sites that you might want to see. Route 66 is a famous stretch of highway that runs almost halfway across the country from the Midwest all the way out to California. The Oklahoma City Zoo, Turner Falls, and the National Cowboy Museum. Here are some of Oklahoma's land and water forms. So you can see in the key here, anything blue. There's a couple lakes, rivers there. Oklahoma's a pretty flat state. It looks like there is one. It's a mesa. It says Black Mesa, and then the elevation is listed there, 4,973 feet. That's how high it goes. Moving on to Alabama, and the capital is Montgomery. Major cities are Birmingham, Huntsville, Mobile, and Tuscaloosa. Alabama has no official nickname, but it has been called the Yellowhammer State, the Heart of Dixie, and the Cotton State. And there is Alabama's state flag. And here are some fun picture postcards from Alabama. And there is the state bird is the yellowhammer. That's why one of the nicknames is the Yellowhammer State. And there's the camellia, the state flower. Some sites to see if you visit Alabama, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, and that is a large, it looks like a statue of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the battleship USS Alabama, Mobile Bay. I thought this picture was interesting because look at that road. I don't know that I'd want to drive on that across all that water. And the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. So after we just left the Houston Space Center in Texas, we can now visit the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, and it says Home of Space Camp. So those of you that are future astronauts, you might want to take a look and take a visit to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. Here are some of Alabama's landforms. As you can see, we have a lake, some rivers, and Alabama also borders the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the Gulf of Mexico down here. So that is on the southern end of Alabama. Moving on to Louisiana, and we learned where Louisiana got its name, remember? If you remember from our chapter on explorers, when we learned about how the state of Louisiana got its name from King Louis. The capital is Baton Rouge. Major cities are New Orleans, Shreveport, Huntsville, and Birmingham. Louisiana's nickname is the Pelican State, and there is a pelican and 3 little baby pelicans on the state flag. And it looks like their motto is Union, Justice, and Confidence. And there's the pelican. Here are some fun little postcards from Louisiana, the Pelican State. The state flower is the magnolia. The state bird is the brown pelican. And there is a Mardi Gras mask. Mardi Gras is an annual celebration where people have like big parades and parties. And there is one of the Mardi Gras parades, and that takes place in New Orleans. And they have different groups that dress up. It's kind of like our Mummers Parade. If you've ever seen or been to the Philadelphia Mummers Parade, Mardi Gras is kind of like that, except it goes on for like, I think it's a week. So imagine like a Mummers Parade that just goes on for several days. The Mississippi River runs through Louisiana. You can take a steamboat ride. The Louisiana Swamp Tour, if you want to take a look at the swamps. I don't know that I'd go on that because I'm very afraid of alligators, so I'm not sure that I would go on that tour. And also in New Orleans, the French Quarter. This is called the French Quarter, and it's the buildings and architecture are very, very beautiful. Here are some of Louisiana's landforms. This is a large lake called Lake Pontchartrain. The Mississippi River comes down, and remember, it empties out into the Gulf of Mexico. There's a bay. Remember, we talked about a bay kind of cuts into the land a little bit. Kentucky. The capital is Frankfort. Major cities are Louisville, Lexington, and Bowling Green. Kentucky's nickname is the Bluegrass State. And this is their state flag, and it says, Commonwealth of Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. And it looks like there's it appears to be two men shaking hands. I think one might be a pioneer, but I can't really tell. Here are some fun little picture postcards from the state of Kentucky. Their state bird is the cardinal. And the Kentucky Derby is the oldest horse race in the U.S., and Kentucky is known for their horse farms. So anybody who is a horse fan like myself, you may want to visit some of the horse farms in Kentucky. And if you are looking for other things to do, there's the Kentucky Derby. That's the horse race I mentioned. It's run usually the first Saturday in May. The ladies wear really big fancy hats, and the horses race around the track. Mammoth Cave National Park. I thought this was a really cool picture. And as you know, cave would be like kind of inside. It would be inside of a mountain, kind of like cut out of a mountain. Any baseball players? There's the Louisville Slugger Museum, Louisville, Kentucky. That's where it got its name, the Louisville Slugger. And the Daniel Boone National Forest. And I thought that was a really pretty picture there. Some of Kentucky's landforms. We see some lakes, some rivers, the Cumberland Plateau, the Ohio River. We learned about the Ohio River. And now on to Mississippi. The capital is Jackson. Major cities are Gulfport, Biloxi, Tupelo, and Meridian. And Mississippi's nickname is the Magnolia State. And that magnolia is this flower that is on their flag. And it says on the flag, "In God we trust." And there is the magnolia. There are some fun little picture postcards there of greetings from Mississippi. So if you're visiting Mississippi, some of the places you can see are the Vicksburg National Military Park, and those are Civil War cannons there. Elvis Presley's birthplace. If you like Elvis, there you go. There's where Elvis was born. You can go on a paddle boat cruise and go to the Biloxi Lighthouse. Some of Mississippi's landforms. Oh, the Yazoo River. I like the name of that river. And there is the Mississippi River. It kind of forms the border there, the border between Mississippi and Louisiana. And there is the Gulf of Mexico right down here on the southern border. Arkansas, the capital is Little Rock. The major cities are Fayetteville, Fort Smith, and Springdale. And Arkansas's nickname is the Land of Opportunity. And there is Arkansas's state flag. There are some little picture postcards there. State bird is the mockingbird. It looks like the state flower is the apple blossom. Some fun places to visit, the Crater of Diamonds State Park. And I think I read that this is the only place in the U.S. where you can find real diamonds is here. So if you want to go diamond hunting, you can go to the Crater of Diamonds State Park in Arkansas. Fort Smith, Mount Magazine State Park, what a beautiful view, and the Arkansas Air and Military Museum. That's a neat little plane there. Some of the landforms of Arkansas, you can see there's a lot of rivers. That is a mountain, Magazine Mountain. That's the one we saw in the last slide where you can go to hike up and see that overlook, 2,753 feet. Hot Springs National Park is there. Tennessee, the capital is Nashville. Other major cities include Memphis, Knoxville, and I love this one, Chattanooga. And Tennessee's nickname is the Volunteer State. Oh, maybe this was the one where it was the Volunteers. It's probably this one. I got them confused. So the Sooner State, that's the one I got confused with Oklahoma. So this must be the Volunteer State where they were the first ones to volunteer to go to war. And that's where it got its nickname. There's some picture postcards from Tennessee. The Smoky Mountains are in Tennessee. And some tourist attractions we may want to see while we're there. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And there they are. The Grand Ole Opry, that's in Nashville. And they have country music performers that sing there and perform there. Dollywood, that's like an amusement park. And they have rides, kind of like it would be like Great Adventure or something, but it's Dollywood. And there's Graceland, which was Elvis Presley's home for many years. So we got to see his birthplace, and now we're seeing where he lived for many years while he lived in Tennessee. His house was called Graceland. Some of Tennessee's landforms. There's the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We have some rivers, the Tennessee River, lakes, some more rivers there. And if you can tell, I don't know how well this shows up, but the little key here does have mountains. They look like little points. And you can see that almost this whole entire 1/4 of the state is mountains over in this area here. Those are the Appalachian Mountains that we've talked about before. And that is the end. We have made it through the southern states. So with any time you have left today, I would like you to work in your southern states packet. If you do not have that at home, I will get you one next week. Do not fear. I will give you one next week. But if you do have it at home, work on that, work through that packet. I think there's a crossword puzzle in there. There's a word find in there, and that helps you to learn the states and the capitals and even a little more information about each state. So I hope you enjoyed visiting the southern states with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.